In this next exercise, we're going to work with charts and graphs. So this is going to be Excel assignment number 3. It's the E03p2pine.xlsx. So go ahead and download that file. Once downloaded, as usual, make sure you click the button that says Enable Editing. That way you can see all the menu options. And once you do that, be sure to save the file first, and be sure to save it as many steps as possible as we do the lab. So I'm going to click on Save As, Browse, and this we've done before. And like I said, I'm just going to put _ Brian on here. All right, so we have some data in our spreadsheet, but this data, while meaningful, is difficult to interpret. It can become much more easy to see trends in data when we look at it in graphs and charts. So we're going to learn a little bit about how to do that with Microsoft Excel. So first we're going to make a simple line chart. So we're going to highlight the values from A2 all the way down to G7. So A2 to G7, so you'll have a range just like you see here from A2 down to G7. Then we're going to click in the Quick Analysis, we're going to click Charts. So over here where it says Quick Analysis, that little button on the bottom right, we're going to go to Charts, and we'll do a line chart. And here we go. So we have a line chart that shows us the trends in these property values from 2007 to 2017. And you can see now we can sort of see a pattern in these property values with this chart. So first, let's make a few little changes here. So first, the chart title, where it says chart title, we're going to double click on that. We're going to type the name of this chart, which is going to be Market Values of Pine Circle Houses. All right. So we can also apply bold to the chart title, just like any other element. So we can click on this. I can go up here to the top to home, and I can make it bold from the font group. So that's one way we can style it a little bit. We can also make it a font size of 20, so I'm going to increase that to a font size of 20, which is awfully large, but that's what the instructions ask us to do. And they ask us to make the color olive green. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to select olive green, accent 3, darker 50%, which is right here. And I can tell which one is which by just hovering my mouse over the color dot for a minute. There we go. So now we have the color they're looking for. So now we're going to click the value axis. So that's this one right here. That's the value axis. Has all the values in it. And on the left side of the chart, we're going to change the font size to 12. So I'm going to increase this twice. There we go. Increase this to 12. Okay. Next, we're going to change the color to olive, just like we did before. So I'm just going to click this little drop down, same button we did prior. Then we're going to do the value axis to open the Format Axis task pane. So over here, we can open up the task pane. Or we can double click on this. So when you double click on the axis, it opens up the Format Access task pane. Over here, we have some additional options. So we're going to type 300,000 for the minimum value. So we're going to come over here. I'm sorry, we're going to scroll down. Now you'll notice as you select each element in the chart, you get different options on the right-hand side. So I'm going to make sure I've selected over here for the axis. And you have some different options on each one of these items as well. So making sure that I have the one on the left selected for the axis values. Then you're going to make sure you click on Axis Options. So when you click on the vertical axis, you'll have these different options along here. We're going to make sure that we have Axis Options selected. So the correct group, when we select this vertical axis, the correct group that we want for the axis option is going to be this little Axis Options option you see here. So it looks like the little line chart. And then we're going to open up Axis Options by clicking the little triangle next to it. When we open that up, we can put a minimum and a maximum. So for the minimum value, we're going to put 300,000. And I believe, and there it goes, so it should automatically adjust the maximum as well. So when you put a minimum value, it's going to put a similar maximum value, a similar difference to the minimum and the maximum. And you can see when we do that, the line chart sort of spreads out a little bit, so it's easier to see trends in individual properties. They're not all clustered together. Next, we're going to change the formatting of the numbers in here. So we're going to scroll down and click on number. So the little menu option for number on the bottom. And for the category, we're going to change it to currency because this is money and we want to show it as money. So I'm going to click on currency. So we put the dollar signs in there. And that's it. So we can close this pane. So we've made a couple edits on here. We've certainly made it a little bit easier to read it by keeping them from clustering together too closely. We changed some of the colors, made this money on here. So we made a few minor changes. So we're going to add a few more elements to this chart. So the first thing we're going to do is click the chart elements in the axis triangle. So when we click on the chart, over here on the right-hand side, when you click on a chart, you get this little plus symbol. We looked at that before. We're going to go over here for axis titles. We're going to click the little arrow next to axis titles. And let's see, we're going to do the primary vertical checkbox. So you want to do the primary vertical axis title. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to edit that title. You can see it added it over here. So we're going to put a label in here. This is going to be December market values. So now we have a label on the left-hand side. Now we're going to change the grid lines. So once again, hit the little plus. Under grid lines, we're going to do primary horizontal. I think we have primary minor. Let me just make sure. Yep, we're going to do primary minor horizontal lines. You can see when you highlight these, it gives you a little preview of what it's going to do. So this is going to just give us more of these grid lines so we can kind of more granularly see and follow those lines to see the values for each of the properties, since there's no labels on those lines. Next, we're going to add some data labels. So we're going to click on the 1109 Pine Data series line. So, and as you click each one of these, notice that it shows you which one you're selecting from your data in the chart. So I'm going to select the top one, which should be 1109 Pine, and we're going to add the data labels checkbox. So in the chart elements, we're going to select data labels, and there we go. So now we see the data labels for 1109, so we can see exactly what those values are on the chart. Well, let's go ahead and change the format on those. So when I select on the data labels, I can go to the Home tab. I can change the color. So maybe I can change them the blue to match the blue for 1109 Pine. I can also change the font size. I'm going to bump that up to 12. There we go. So now it's a 12-point font, a little bit easier to see. And we could just change it to the olive green like everything else if we wanted to. Now we're going to make some changes to the legend. The legend is at the bottom. So the labels that you see here at the bottom that tell us, that reference which line belongs to which property is the legend. We're going to click on that. So when you right-click on it, by the way, you have to make sure you select it. There we go. So I selected the entire legend. I'm going to right-click and go to Format Legend. And we're going to move the legend to the top. So right now it's at the bottom. I'm going to click Top, and I'll move it up to the top. All right, now that we've done our editing here, now in the instructions, they have us create this chart in a different tab. But I prefer to work with charts in the same tab as my data so I can see which data I'm working with. You can see as I select my lines over here, I can sort of see color codes for me what I'm working with on the left side. So as I select things, I can see what I'm working with. But now we're going to go ahead and move this to a new tab so it's by itself. So we're going to right-click. I'm going to go to Move Chart. And we're going to do a new sheet. And you can call it whatever you like. I'm just going to leave it set to Chart 1. But now we have our chart. We have our Pine Circle data. And chart 1 is the chart. So we have two tabs now. So going back to our data, we're now going to do a different chart. But the instructions are going to have you save it or keep it in the same page as the data. So the range that we're going to select is A2 to A7. But here's the challenging part. We're going to select A2 to A7, but then the other range they want us to select is G2 to H7. But if you select G2 to H7, you can only select one at a time. To select both at the same time, you're going to highlight the first range first. Then you're going to hold down the Shift key on the keyboard while you select the second range. I'm sorry, not the Shift key. You can see the Shift key selected everything. We actually don't want that. We want to use the Control key. So we're going to highlight the first range, hold down the Control key, and then highlight the second range. So I'll show you that again. So I highlight the first range from A2 to A7. Now I'm pressing the Control key and highlighting G2 to G7. Once you've done that, now we can use just these ranges to create a different chart. So we're going to go to the Insert tab. Then we're going to go to Charts. So the type of chart that we're going to do is going to be a combo chart. So it's in the Charts group. And it should be a combo chart. Let's see if we can find it. So it's not any of these. Let's go to Recommended Charts and see if it recommends the one that we're looking for, and it doesn't. So if we look on here, here we go. So this is going to be combo charts right here. So if you highlight, if you hover over the chart, it'll tell you which group it is. We want the combo charts. We're going to do a combination of a bar and a line. So it's the first option, the combination of a bar and a line chart. Oh, we need at least 2 series of data. So the problem is I read the instructions wrong. It should have been G2 to H7. So I'm going to highlight this again. So I'm going to highlight A2 to A7, hold down the Control key, G2 to H7. Then I'm going to click on the combo charts again. There we go. And this time we have our chart. So you'll notice this chart, the bars make sense, but the line doesn't seem to make any sense. The square footage line. So this chart is not the correct chart. So we have to go back. So I'm going to hit, so basically with my chart highlighted, I'm going to hit delete. It's going to remove the chart. I still have my highlighting here. If you lost your highlighting, you can always highlight it again if you like. Again, you're going to hold down the Control key to do that. We're going to go back to the Insert tab. We're going to go to the Insert Clustered. But this time, we can pause as we select each one of these to see which one gives us the more meaningful layout of our data. In this case, I believe this one is the best option. So we're going to do the one here in the middle. And you should see something similar in yours. So now we can see the square footage following those the bar charts. And this is again for each one of these properties. So you can kind of compare the square footage of the properties to the values of the homes. So we're just going to make a few minor formatting adjustments here. First, we're going to drag the title over here, or the chart, resize it a little bit, make it just a little bit bigger. We're going to change the title. So we're going to double click on the title. Oops, I just moved mine, but you just want to double click on it. We're going to call it 2017 Market Value and Square Footage. All right, down the left-hand side, this is currency. So we want to show it as currency, so I'm going to highlight it. Now, if you don't already have the formatting on the left, if you double-click on it, so if you double-click on this box, you'll get the formatting on the right. So we're going to go to Text Options. I'm sorry, we're going to go to Axis Options. And we are going to scroll down to Number. And if you don't have it already highlighted, if you have the wrong one of these options down here, you want the one with the little bar chart on it. And again, we're going to scroll down to Number, and we're going to choose Currency. So that'll change that to money, which is makes a little bit more sense. The other thing they're going to have us do is click on the Chart Elements arrow, which is right here, that little plus sign that we've looked at before. We're going to scroll down to Axis Titles Triangle. So we're going to go to Axis Titles. We're going to expand that. and we want to show the secondary vertical. So we want to go to secondary vertical, hit the check box, and this way we can put in that this is the square footage. So we can go in here and edit this to say square foot. There we go. I'm going to close this window on the right-hand side. So now I've got my nice new bar chart. Here is my data up here at the top. And we have our original line chart in its own separate tab. Next, we're going to highlight from B3 all the way to G3. I'm sorry, G7. So from B3 all the way to G7. Then we're going to click the Insert tab. We're going to click Column in the Sparks line group. So here's Spark lines. We're going to do Column. So we have to tell it for the location range where we want to put the spark lines. So you're going to highlight from I3 to I7. Okay, so it should put in our spark lines right here. You're going to click OK, and you'll get a nice little bar chart. So it'll show the home values in a nice little chart for each property off to the right side. So in this lesson, we learned how to use some charts and graphs to help us visualize data. And you can see that the information that's in this data pops out at us a lot easier when we have these charts and graphs. So it's certainly a powerful tool in Microsoft Excel. So you're going to save this. So I've been saving mine all along. So I'm going to click on File, Save. Make sure it's saved. I can see the file name at the top. Close it. And then I'll turn this in on Blackboard. So I'll go over here to Assignment 3 and submit that for Assignment 3. And that's it. So that's all you need for Assignment 3.